Well, hey there, friends, and welcome back to the Creative Shop Talk podcast. What a pleasure it is to be here with you today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to the podcast and join me. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love coaching, I love being with my people, and I love my podcast. I just love hearing from people, and our podcast is spreading all over the world now. We have listeners everywheres right now. We've not everywheres, but we have it all over the world, and it's been such a pleasure to hear from you. And I'm in a tiny fishing village in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. Lunenburg is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Go Google it if you've never heard of it. It's a really quaint, cute little town. And there's a little something you may not know about me and where I am, but I'm currently, as I'm podcasting, and every day when I podcast, I'm looking out at the ocean. Right now I'm watching my neighbor who's a lobster fisherman. And on days when I'm having like a long, busy day here podcasting in my warm, cozy office, I look out and I see him lobster fishing and pulling out the traps and, just in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of winter. Lobster season here is November to May, in the middle of winter. So there's a little something, something. I have no idea. I hope that's not a weird thing to share here on our podcast. But sometimes when I'm podcasting and I'm talking to you, I kind of like wonder, where are you? Where are you listening from? What are you doing while you're listening? And I just love knowing that. So I love feedback. So if you're on our email list, hit reply sometime. Let me know where you are. Where in the world are you? Or reach out on my Instagram account, Wendy Batten Biz. I love hearing from you. And we'd also, of course, love for you to leave a review if you can. It really helps the podcast. It helps us get found, and the algorithms, it helps us get heard a little bit more. So anyhow, in this world where we're all kind of disjointed, I guess, and we're not together, and we're not, you and I aren't hanging out having a cup of coffee together. And I guess I feel kind of intimate. I'm in your earbuds. So there you go. A little something about me, and I'd love to know a little something about you. So anyhow, let's get on with the show. Today I have a special guest for you. It's Jane Bellante, who is a former client, and we worked a long time together. She was a member of our Retailers Inner Circle. She's also an expert at helping people let go of negative thoughts. So she is an incredible artist. She works with people, helping them to create art and personal brands that they've always wanted to. She is a mixed media artist for over 30 years, an international best-selling author. She has been a 3-time published artist and has a master's degree in adult education. And she had a shop. She's done all the things. Studio. She's had a shop and a studio. She used to teach in her studio. She's done a lot of things, and I just love Jane to death. She came with me to H&H America last year just to hang out. Like I said, I'm going to Chicago. I'm teaching at H&H America, and I was doing sessions there. And I'm gonna be honest, I hadn't been on stage in a while. I hadn't been on stage since COVID. And Jane was amazing to have, like, just hang. She's like, I'm gonna come up and just hang out. So we had been working together for a long time, and we'd never met in person. So that was wonderful. Anyway, it was just a great time. And Jane is a really great human. She's also the host of the ArtFusion Podcast, which is really good. I love it. She has a new app. She talks about that she'll explain that, I guess, in the podcast. She's the founder of a program called the 5-Day Letting Go Workshop, the Creating Confidently ArtFusion course. She has a mastermind, and she's married, mom, 2 kids, 2 pets. she's a human just like us, and a busy mom, and I appreciated her taking her time out today. We talk about a lot of things that get in our way. Some things that get in our way, some of the things, the stories we tell ourselves. The stories we tell ourselves, sometimes the committee in our head, as we like to say. She talks a lot, and she shares nuggets about what to do when you get stuck. And she also gives us some really practical and interesting thoughts on how to move the needle on our goals and how to think through those things. I think you're going to find this episode super helpful, and I think you're going to get some great takeaways from it. So without further ado, let's go and chat with Jane. Running a retail business doesn't have to be so hard. Welcome to the Creative Shop Talk Podcast, the go-to podcast for creative shop owners, studio owners, and independent retailers. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, retail business coach and mentor. Each week, I'll share simple, proven business strategies, inspiring stories from fellow retailers, and advice from industry experts. Together, we're going to work to find the success you want from your retail business with more profits in your till and a little more joy in your life. Well, I am super excited to welcome you, Jane, here to the Creative Shop Talk podcast.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So I don't even know where to start. I'm laughing because we have known each other for a very long time. We've coached together. You've been part of my programs. You've been in the Retailers Inner Circle. We've coached privately. You've been in the mastermind. Like, I just
Yes.
feel like you just have such an intimate knowledge, and I have an intimate knowledge, and I love what you're doing and expanding on. And we've brought you here today to talk about mindset because you're no longer a retailer. You're not retailing anymore per se with a shop,
No,
with a brick and
right.
mortar. But I did bring you in because I do think it's really important, a really important part of retail business or business in general, as somebody who's been self-employed for 25 plus years, is
Yeah.
really important that we talk about how we think about things, how we like our mindset. And you are just amazing at that. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do and your business journey or anything you want to share with us that has brought you here today?
Yeah, so I've changed a lot, as
No,
you
I know.
know.
I know. I was like, what do I say she did? But anyway, you tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So I've been a mixed media artist for over 30 years, and that's my passion. I'm an artist for sure. But I have really been diving into my identity. And it's so important. Identity is so important as a entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur, whatever, because identity helps you follow your path,
Mhm.
right? And so I have been really diving in, and you know this story, but as I was a retailer and I had a brick and mortar, I ended up having to get a stint in my heart in early 2021. And so that year was was not good. Okay. It was COVID. It was not good for me medically. And I just started having these dreams. And I never remember my dreams. And I know that you know this story, but it's so pertinent to how I've begun to change. I started dreaming of brown bears and black panthers and kittens, and like they were so vivid. And so, of course, I'm Googling them immediately. Like, what does this mean? And every single one of those meant rebirth and transformation. And so I think the most important thing is to listen or acknowledge your intuition and the signs that you're being given. And so I actually changed my business name in early 2022, which you were part of. And I sort of began a new journey. And I really dove into my art and art journaling in particular. And the art journaling has really helped me make absolute quantum leaps. Like I can't even keep up. I can't even keep up with them in my own self, and really diving into the things that I'm telling myself to stop myself, the things that I'm doing that don't serve me, but they feel comfortable because that's what we live in, right? Even though we're not exactly loving what we're doing, it's still the known rather than the unknown. And so diving into all of this for myself and moving past fear
Hmm.
because it feels right. It feels like this is the journey. And even if I'm unsure of the path, I'm still pushing forward and moving forward, and things start to be revealed to me as I go along. And it's been amazing.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what Rumi, isn't there a quote by Rumi, as you walk, the path appears? And,
Yeah.
and that's what you're doing. And I've watched you through this journey, and a lot of retailers listening might actually, maybe it's making them uncomfortable thinking about, different changes. We're not where we are even today. I mean, I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm the poster child for pushing through fear and making big changes
Yeah.
to follow my intuition. I don't mean poster child, but I've just done that a lot, followed my path. But let's back up even a little bit more. So before you were a retailer, I know you come with a lot of other experience. You've been a teacher, you've just got a lot. You've done so many things
Yeah, yeah,
that brought you to retail. First of all, I just want to like pre-retail, you had coaching and you were teaching, and your retail shop was beautiful and coveted. And again, then the health issues and things happen. I love that you've evolved. And I think this is a message for everybody about doing what I don't know how to explain evolve. Maybe you have better words for this and your own words, but you've followed that path and you've evolved and you took the scary leap to close the business. I mean, the health and the business and all the intuition was telling you at the time,
yeah,
and during COVID. So business wise, like where are you now? Like what are you doing now? Do you want to share with us a little bit on what that like maybe not just business, but what are you doing now
yeah.
for yourself?
So, business wise, I am running a high level mastermind with creative business coaches, just helping them with all of the things identity, identity of your customer, what your vision is to serve them, and then visibility like how do you get seen? How do people know you?
Mhm.
And so that is my biggest thing. And then I'm running little mini courses, little 6-month courses as like almost a business igniter. And again, it's not just like how you set your business up like business 101. It's literally like, who the heck are you?
Mhm.
What lane are you going to be in, at least for a while? Because especially, as entrepreneurs and creatives, we're all over the place. We love to do everything.
Yep.
And so we're like, we jump into something and then we're like, oh, nope, I love that. And oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is really fun too. And it's very hard for us to narrow down. And so I'm really just digging into that identity portion. Like, who are you? What do you love the most? Because you can have multiple income streams, but you got to start with one. And so like for some of the retailers that I'm coaching, do you want to like really have like what do you want your business to be? Some people are like, you know what, I just started this brick and mortar because I wanted a place to sell my stuff and I wanted a place for my friends to sell my stuff. And one thing that I'm hearing a lot is like, well, why am I not making any money? Well, that's a mindset where you're going into it as this is a hobby.
Mm.
So, if I'm opening a place just because I want to show my stuff and I want my friends to have a place to sell my stuff, their stuff, that's hobby mentality, hobby money. So it's like really diving into like, and that's great. If that's what you want to have, that's amazing. But really understanding why you've done this. Why did you start your business? And following that energy. Because as we get going in our business, we have a lot of things come up that like aren't very easy.
Yes.
you know? And so like really following that energy and staying in that, like, why did you start?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yes, yeah.
having a clear idea, because the universe loves clarity, a clear idea. And I know you are big on knowing your numbers. And that clarity, that clear idea of where you actually want to be in your business helps you understand how to move forward step by step by step.
And absolutely 100%. And I know we're aligned on that as far as hobby. I always say like hobby mindset, hobby pay. And
Yeah.
again, nothing wrong with that. We've done other podcasts on the hobby mindset. And so let's stay in that little path for a minute. It also evolves and changes. And I also want to touch on, I do know my numbers. And I tell everybody to know their numbers. And the reason is because I didn't when I was running it as a hobby, my business as a hobby. I was just
Ah,
winging it and, hoping. I was like, I don't know what am I doing here? And I see that a lot in retailers that come to me and shop owners. Again, to what you said, we open it as a passion project, maybe not without a lot of work. We don't know, nobody opens a retail business. No one is listening to this podcast that's running a retail store on a whim and luck, right? Like where they're doing things. But then there does become times that we have to keep questioning, is this still serving my life?
yeah.
Is this, and that's where the numbers need to come in. We need to understand our lifestyle congruence. Like, are we, is it serving me time-wise, boundary-wise, money-wise,
Yeah.
energy-wise. Energy changes as well too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Our
yeah.
love or passion for things. And that could be in 6 months after opening, or
For
it could
sure.
be,
Yeah.
or it could be 6 years or 16 years. Just literally had a conversation, and I was thinking about the fact that we were going to be having this conversation with a client, and she's, quite, I think she's probably 12 or 13 years into her shop. And she's the why isn't there anymore. She's like, loves it. It's good. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And actually that word fine came up a couple of times. She's like, everything's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The
Yeah.
passion's gone. And so she's ready to evolve. But the mindset around that is I shouldn't. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about, or
Mhm.
part of what I wanted to ask you. We have to, how do we trust ourselves? Like everything's fine, and like trust
Yeah.
ourselves to evolve and to go back and dig back into that why. And that could be to get excited about the why again, or remind ourselves about the why. It
Yeah.
also could be, this isn't serving me anymore, which is a very difficult thing. I know that you went through that with the shop and with some other parts of your
Yeah.
business.
Over and over and over. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
100% gone through that with
Mhm.
many parts. Like I cried like a baby when when I walked away from when I franchised and walked away from the retail business, because it felt like a hard thing, but it wasn't, it was the right thing to move and follow my intuition and move on. And same with closing my studio. It just, all different parts of our lives. There's chapters that end, but we have to remember that why, but it has to come from our mind, I think, and what we want, right? So can you
Yeah.
speak a little bit to the stories we tell ourselves, maybe?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, if you aren't letting yourself be silent ever, you will never allow new ideas, new thought forms, nothing. You'll never allow anything in,
Mm.
and
So good.
so people are afraid to meditate, and it's hard. Like you sit down and you close your eyes and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing here? Like, okay, I'm meditating, and really starting to have some sort of a practice in silence, whether it's walking, meditating, journaling is really good, and even just creating art. That's why I art journal a lot. It gets you into that flow state. But you also have to be brave enough to let go of the things that are no longer serving you. So if you're saying something is fine and you're just drifting day to day to day to day, let's compare that to if you're saying, my business is amazing. I love it so much. There's a different frequency there. And fine is going to keep you in fine. That's the law of attraction. What you give, you get.
Mhm.
And sorry, you might have to edit this out. My watch just talked to me and I totally just lost my train of thought. Like, what the heck? Um, so, um, talking about silence and meditation. So, letting yourself be quiet, but then once you start to receive like little bits of information, because you will, out of nowhere, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I should maybe start a little book nook in my shop, or, you'll get little ideas. And the one thing that we do is like, oh, that sounds like a really cool idea, but I am way afraid to start that. I don't know if I should start that. Oh my gosh, what are people going to think if I start that? Like you get all these crazy repetitive thought patterns in your head. And my thing that I tell everybody is just do it. Do it so it's 70% perfect. Just put it out there and see what happens. Because you're going to get data then, right? So you put it out 70% perfect, and then you look at your data. And data could be your feelings about it, it could be your numbers, it could be your customers' responses. And then you tweak based on that. Is it working? Awesome. Keep doing it. Make it better. Is it not working? What can you change or tweak? Or you know what? I don't like this at all. Then stop doing it. There's no one telling you that you can't continue to make changes in your business.
Yeah, I
And
think we should on ourselves a lot. Like we
oh
should
yeah.
be doing this or we shouldn't be doing that. I mean, both
Mhm.
ways, right?
Or
Um,
need to do, right? And
yeah,
I always
yeah,
say instead of
have
need to do,
to.
it's choose.
Yeah,
Do you choose to do it? Because that feels so much better. Need to feels like, somebody's
yeah,
punching me on the face, so
yeah.
we don't want that.
Well, and so to go back to the quiet and the silent. It's so funny. Longtime listeners will know I don't consider myself woo. And I know like you do, right? You're very woo. I'm not very woo, but I am still spirit. Like I still try to be quiet, like, and still sometimes
Yeah.
it's not easy
Yeah.
for me. I'm a doer. I'm a busy person.
Mhm, me too.
I'm like, I'm not good at silent and still, but I have seen such benefit from it. So I actually can't call it meditating because I have that monkey brain. I think they call it monkey brain, where it's like, because my brain is just like
Mhm,
on. So I literally, like, instead of calling it, I just call it still. I'm like, I just need to sit still. Like, when do you
mhm.
just need to sit? So many of you know I live by an ocean, and there's a rock face wall in front of my house, and I go and I sit on the rocks, and I always laugh and I say I'm rock sitting. I'm like, I'm just going to be still on the rocks for a minute. I don't take my
Yeah,
phone. I don't do that.
that's
It's
amazing.
amazing what, like, and it actually kind of irritates me that it works so well. Meaning that it's
It
like,
is irritating.
ah, why don't I do this more often? So I do have it in my regular routine and habits to make sure when I'm walking and outside, that I sit on a rock. Sometimes my husband will even say, like, are you just sitting on a rock? I'm like, yeah, I'm just sitting on a rock. It's like, this is what I'm doing today. But even if it's just 10 minutes, being still
Yes.
does matter. In our busy entrepreneurial brains and lives, sometimes we don't make time for that stillness. So thank you for bringing that up and reminding
Yeah.
us about that. I also, regular listeners will hear me say that committee in my head. So there's a committee in my head all the time, voting on all the things that and, like, telling me I should do these things. And
Yeah.
so again, thank you for the reminder that, we get to shush that committee sometimes, and
Mhm.
we can redirect and flip the script, as I like to say, to a better language, a better lingo. We need to stop. We would sometimes, and I've heard you say this, is what I'm just wanted to bring this up. We're kinder to other people, and, like, verbally, maybe, like, I would never speak to
1,000,000%.
anybody, like certainly not
Yeah.
clients or friends or
Yeah.
family or anybody that I loved, the way sometimes I like the doubt and the negative in my head. I would never speak like that outwardly, but we do it internally. So
Mhm.
whether it's about, and everybody has it. I don't care who's listening. You have doubt. There's been a
Oh, a
moment.
million
There's been
times
a
over.
moment
Yeah.
of
Yep.
sometimes I've yet to meet anybody. So thank you for the reminder of that, those voices in our head. I love to say, I don't know how to do something yet. I love that your reminder of, I I don't have to do anything, I get to, is, those kinds of reminders are really, they're really great. Thank you for that. I think it's really great. You have a strong background in branding. You have courses, and, like, you've taken, you're trained professionally in branding and education along those lines. I find sometimes part of this showing up, getting excited about our business, being seen. And I feel like part of it is us playing small, or some people playing small around the branding. And I don't know if I'm lining this up right or not, or making it clear. But what I mean by that is, the voices in my head tell me, and this is what I hear from people, oh, well, nobody cares about my brand, or it's not that big of a deal, or art, or, as a maker and artisan. We have a lot of creatives that listen to the podcast. We have a lot of retailers and, different pop-up markets and stuff. Can you tie that? I just feel like that you would have great advice around making sure that you are being visible and confident about showing up around branding your business. I'm a person that I feel like you need to be shouting it from the rooftops and making yourself a big deal, but the mindset around that's not
Yeah.
always easy.
Yeah. Well, first of all, branding is not about you. It's about your customer.
Right.
And so, but that being said, I just talked about identity, and you can't go into branding without knowing who you are.
Hmm.
Because once you really know who you are, and
Hmm.
in this case, it's, we're all business owners. We're brick and mortars, we're artists, we're creatives, we're, everything under the sun. Everyone that listens to this podcast is, some sort of an entrepreneur. And once you know clearly who you are, then you can have a clear idea of who your customer is. And branding is really based upon your customer. Who's your avatar? What's their identity? Where do they hang out? What do they love? How, like they said, what's their what's their identity? What do they identify as? Like what do they like to call themselves? What colors do they love? Where do they shop? All of these things. And hopefully that shop is your shop where they shop, right? But you can take and you can think about like, who's my best customer right now? Like, I'm sure all of you listening have a customer that you love when they come in and they chat with you and they always buy, they're always doing your classes or whatever that you offer. And you can base your branding literally off of that person. And so you want to talk like them. You want to get into their subconscious minds. And this doesn't, like, some people are like, oh, that sounds like yucky. I don't want to do that, and it's like literally you're in business to help people. So if you don't want to help them, then don't dig into who they are, and continue to be lost. Or dig into who your customer is and really be like them, and you're assisting them. And then they grab their friends and they're like, oh my gosh, you got to come into the shop. It's so amazing. And you start that snowball effect, and that really does help you to be seen. And then, once you're so clear about these things, you get more confident. And then confidence helps you be seen. So maybe you are going to your local newspaper. Maybe you are calling that local morning news show and having them do a little segment in your shop. You just become more confident because you know who you are, you know who your customer is, and then everything you put out is targeted to that customer so that it's like a handshake, like you both love each other. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And I think you're spot on with the confidence part of it. Our brand has to be confident, and it doesn't always have to be us. I always like to say our brand it's not Wendy. It's, as you said, it's my customers, but it's also my team. Like, it doesn't have to always be the shop owner, right? It's not a personal brand all the time. It's just, but how we have confidence, or how we speak to people and serve them. I guess serving is the way that we
Who's your
feel about
customer?
that.
How do you serve them?
Yeah, how are we serving them? And again, it's the cycle, right? It gives you confidence. If you're really confident about being able to help them find the perfect book or the perfect soap or the perfect album or whatever it is, the perfect paint color, the perfect whatever, if you really actually want to serve them, which I'm gonna throw a net out and say 99% of the people listening to this podcast care about how their people are served. They genuinely want to have a really awesome retail business that helps and serves, and and it's a reciprocal thing, right? I mean, if I'm helping you, then you're going to choose me. You're going to choose to buy from me, and you're going to buy in my store, and that's it's always coming from that point of view. What I do see though is maybe a little bit of hesitancy to serve well. And I don't mean that in that we're not caring about it, but maybe it's like, I'm just going to stand behind the counter. I'm going to display my stuff in my shop. I'm going to open this beautiful store, especially maybe newer people. But I think I'm going to open this shop. I'm going to put all these beautiful things. Like, if you build it, they will come. Not true. But anyway, we all know that. We can, because I know some fantastic shops that have not been successful because of maybe this part of it. But then I need to have that committee in my head tell me it's okay to share and talk about it, and that, to what you said, what is it that they want? How do they want me to, how do they want to be served? How do they want to be helped? What do they want to see? Let me show you the new things in the shop. That's, I think, part of the mindset that I feel like you're so good at helping around.
Yeah.
Because it is about serving. It's not just selling. It's not just whatever. It's about showing up. It's about being, again, your authentic self, maybe. But
Yeah,
if it doesn't feel authentic, but it is authentic, like it does. If you open this shop and you care about these people, then do something.
Yeah.
Show up.
It's also part of, I have a little PDF, a printable PDF, and it's called 8 Signs That You're Living in Lack Mentality. And one of those signs is self-doubt.
Perfect. Yeah.
And listen, you open the shop because you love all the things, right? You love all the things shop. Maybe you played shop when you were a kid, like, let's play store, right? You love all of that.
Mhm.
But then when you get people in front of you, you immediately start that repetitive thought pattern
Right.
that says,
So, yeah.
maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe they're not going to like me. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I don't have enough education, experience, whatever.
Mhm.
And listen, these are neural pathways in your brain. Like they're actual, like think of a game trail when like, a moose or a deer or bears or whatever keep going back and forth on the same trail, right? They push all of the grass, the dirt, whatever down, and then it is a trail that's there pretty much forever. They always use that trail. It's the same thing in your brain. It's called a neural pathway, and they don't go away, but they're caused by repetition. And that's why most of the time we don't even understand that we are repeating these things over and over and over and over in our head. It's our subconscious mind. And so subconscious mind thinks habits keep you safe. And habits aren't just smoking and eating and drinking and, your Diet Coke or whatever it is. Habits are thought patterns. And so really getting onto a new thought pattern and repeating it over and over and over and over and over and over again creates new neural pathways. And so that is why it's so hard to change as well, because these are thought patterns in our head that are always going to be there. They don't go away. So you have to create new thought patterns. And like, think about like going on a diet or something. Like, I'm going to go on a diet, right? And you do so good for like 4 months. And then you're like, ugh, forget it. That's why it's so easy to pop back into those old routines and habits, because it's a literal pathway in your brain that you can't change. So commitment to new habits is super important. And what you tell yourself is the number one important thing that there is.
Do you have any quick advice, tools, recommendations on what I can do when I'm finding myself in that playing small, lack mindset? Like what do I need to do right now? Like what do I need to flip that script as we talk about?
Yeah, affirmations are really great, but people are really resistant to affirmations. And so one little trick that I absolutely love, love, love is we all have our like bottle of water or our soda or our coffee around us all the time, right? We have our little thing to drink.
Yeah.
So every time you take a sip, you repeat the affirmation, right? So let's say you're stuck in like bad money mindset, like I never have enough money, or I'm barely ever making my bills, or these are the things that you're repeating to yourself over and over and over, right? Which is probably 90% of the human population does this, right? Every time you take a sip of your drink, you say to yourself, money is coming in every time. And then because you start to feel that drink going in through your body, the feeling of it really helps to amplify the affirmation. And it just helps to create those new neural pathways even faster, because the thought with the feeling is really what makes the quantum leap, really quick. So it doesn't even need to be money is coming in. It could be I know so much about my business. I help my customers so much. My customers love me. It can be any sort of thing that you want. The key here is identifying in the first place that you're telling yourself the repetitive thought pattern that is keeping you standing behind that counter, or keeping you from, whatever, taking your shop live on Facebook. It's those things that you have to identify, and then you can begin to change them. So the water thing, the drinking thing is really great because we drink things all day long. So you could put a little sticky note on your cup with your affirmation. And so that every time you pick your cup up, you have to see it because the sticky note is there. And then you just repeat it to yourself. You feel that water, that drink going through your body, and you just keep doing it over and over, because these new neural pathways are created by new habits.
Great tip, something everybody can do. I'm laughing
Yeah.
because I personally may or may not have 3 glasses of water and a coffee cup on my desk as we're recording this.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
You can
there's a
put a
lot of
different
liquids that go.
affirmation on each
So
one.
you're absolutely right. It's something we all do. It's something we all, yeah, I got a lot of affirmations going on here right now. So yeah, so it's funny. So this is just kind of not a funny thing, but any bad recommendations or bad things around mindset or thinking about mindset? Because I've heard some like that you've heard that maybe we want to dispel or I don't know if you have any thoughts around any bad advice, I guess, around one thing that comes to mind for me, and I ask you because I know you hear it all. You hear
Yeah.
you're like, it's just like get over it, or but I feel like we can change our thought patterns. I feel resistance a lot to maybe my own sometimes, but
Mhm.
also I want to say my husband or partner, but he's the editor of our podcast, so I probably won't. So I'm just laughing because, or who maybe it's somebody even I'm coaching or working with, and it's not about other people either, but just some people who just need like a little bit of a push, I guess, maybe
The thing that's
re
coming
the
to my
neurons or
mind,
whatever. But I
yeah,
bad advice too about just get over it, or it's not
yeah.
or anything like that. Yeah.
So I don't think I think it's more of like self-advice that's coming to my mind right now, but like refusing to acknowledge that we are the ones keeping ourselves down and then just doubling down on the things that we're doing that aren't working anyways.
Right.
Well, I'm just gonna put way more time into this, even though it's not working right now. It's just because I haven't put more time into it, right? So I'm gonna just double down and do this thing over and over and over. And that's the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you really think about it, like doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, even if you're doubling down. Did it work now? Why is it going to work when you double down? How about digging into yourself
And
and
trust.
finding the real reason,
Right.
you know?
And trusting that.
Mhm.
So that is
Uh-huh.
fabulous advice because and a great reminder for everybody, if something's not working, first of all, if we don't change, it doesn't change. If you don't change, what is the saying? If we don't make a change, nothing changes. So you're right, but trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting that evolution as well that we talked about earlier about how we do change, and we do have to listen to
And
that. We have to
yeah,
be
and it's
still a little
okay.
bit still sometimes, right? Back to that being still and
We aren't here to stay the same.
right. That's right.
We are here to evolve and grow.
Yeah.
And like setting those boundaries for yourself really can help you create the best business, the business that you have always wanted, that lets you have massive freedom, however that looks for you, where you're not working 10 and 12-hour days and you get to create your boundary. I always say, like, it's creating your game. You get to play your game and it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's been fun watching you create your game. Uh,
Yeah,
and it's fun because I love being, I don't know, maybe a little tiny part of shaping that.
absolutely.
Um,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
that massive freedom is a word that I love. And I've heard you say that before. We get to create that freedom. We're not stuck in anything. So I think that's a really good reminder as we wrap up. I want to honor your time. I I feel like we could talk a lot about mindset. I know that you're joining us inside the Retailers Inner Circle to chat with us a little bit about mindset in there. And I think that's a really important part. And not just mindset. Mindset kind of gets fluffed away, but it's how we
Yeah.
think, I guess. How we think
Right.
about our business maybe is a better way.
Yeah.
And trusting ourselves. What's next for you? What is exciting and happening in your world?
Well, I have a lot of exciting things happening. I have my own podcast now called the ArtFusion Podcast. And so that was one thing that I had to step through fear to do. Like, oh my gosh, but I've done it and it's evolving and I'm getting amazing feedback from it. And so I'm really just sort of basing my business off of what I am seeing in my clients, and whether they are business clients or just people that, want to make some good changes in their lives. So, I just put out an app called Mind Canvas, literally just put it out the other day, and it has meditations and affirmations and reprogramming. And again, with the meditation, they're all guided and they're short. They're like under 12 minutes a piece, right? So, that monkey mind helps to be slowed down when you hear somebody else's voice. You still can drift off and be like, oh my gosh, what did she just say? Should I rewind that? But the more you do it, the easier it gets. So, and just really having some new programs coming out based on sort of that whole living, that freedom, that what do you want in your life, whether that includes a business or maybe you're retired, whatever, but what do you want and how do you get there and what feels good and are you healthy and are you moving your body? And you know it all stems from the brain.
Right.
So it's programming and things that help that, and of course I'm going to incorporate art into all of that because that's what I do and it makes it fun
Yeah,
too,
and it is
right?
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you up for a little rapid fire question? Sometimes I love to end our podcast interviews.
I
Are
would
you
love that.
scared? So, yeah.
I don't know, it might be.
All right, here you go. We'll just whatever comes to mind. What is your favorite or current or favorite business book or podcast that you're listening to?
I am actually reading You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's like mind-blowing, literally mind-blowing. It can be a little bit dry, but he's a good storyteller. So it's just how people have used placebos to change their lives, whether it's a pill or like a thought pattern. It is nuts.
We'll have to look that up. I don't know that
Yeah.
book at all. So that's great. What's a goal that you set and felt utterly surprised that you achieved and why?
My master's degree.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I actually wanted to quit. Like I could not figure out a thesis. I was so resistant to it. And I went in to tell my teacher that I was quitting, and she grabbed me by the arm and she said, just like this, "You will not quit." And I was like, okay, okay. So she helped me along after that. And, I achieved my master's, and it was pretty big feat for me.
That is, especially
Yeah.
where you did want to quit and
Uh-huh.
your brain
Yeah.
wanted you to quit.
That,
Everything wanted you to
yes.
quit. So
And
good
that
for
gives
you.
you
Yes.
confidence, that gives me confidence. I went through something hard already and figured it out. So I can do
Yeah.
it again.
I can do it again. I love that. Complete this statement. I lose track of time when.
I'm creating.
Yeah. See, I knew that's what you would say there, but I wasn't really sure. But yes, I know you probably do because you're an incredible artist, an incredible artist. One last one. What lessons took you the longest to learn? Why?
you know, listening to the signs, like
Mhm.
listening to, intuition. And so then it was forced upon me,
Mhm.
you know, it's
Well,
really
you
important.
had a pretty big sign too with your heart issue. I mean, like, here's your sign. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah,
Like,
but you say that, but it's really funny because you hear like you get the pebble, then the rock, then the
yeah,
boulder.
right.
I honestly think that was the pebble.
Yeah, I do too for you. Yeah.
That was the pebble, and then I had the rock going through the rest of that horrible year, which I will not get into, but trust me, it was not fun. And the boulder was like having these dreams, like, you need to change and you need to change now. And I wasn't listening to that stuff. I had kids graduating from school during COVID, all of the things. Everybody knows how COVID was for them, and just being a mom and a business owner, you get caught up in all of that. And so I wasn't letting myself be quiet. I wasn't listening. I wasn't paying attention.
I feel like we could have a whole podcast on serving everybody else but ourselves.
Oh,
Sometimes I
girl.
feel like that's a lesson. Anyway, I feel like
Yeah.
there's a whole part two to this podcast
Yeah.
going to happen around that. And I'm laughing because there's probably, a lot of people listening. So sometimes we're serving, and that could just be, not could be, it could be family, friends, could be just your business itself. Sometimes we're serving the business. And I feel like even to what you said earlier, we get, and my client who said everything's fine, like it's fine where she's serving the business. She's just serving the staff and the business and what status quo is for her and what she should be doing. So you were doing the same, like during COVID, it was just, I'm just serving and doing and what I need to do. And, there
Keep
are
it
things we
together,
need to
man.
do,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
also is great lessons for all of us. And to wrap this up, back to what you said, to just being still sometimes and listening to what we need to do. So thank you, Jane, for that. I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. Where can people find you? What's our best place for us to send everybody?
Yeah. Website is Jane Bellante Art. You can find the podcast on there. You can find the app on there, and, on all social medias. It's the same handle.
Right. And we'll have all of that in the show notes. Anything else to share before we wrap up?
No, I'm just so grateful that you had me here. I always love hanging out with you and chatting. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. We've had the privilege of hanging out together in Chicago. Jane came down when I was speaking. Some of you know I was speaking at Chicago at H&H Americas, and Jane came up and stayed, and we had a great.
That was
You were
awesome.
so supportive of me and
Oh,
that was
so
my
great. Yeah.
first post-COVID stage, speaking on stage and all the things and the nerves and all that. So I want to
Yeah.
thank you. I want to put that back to you and thank you for coming out and hanging out and being there and being so supportive and being my
I'd do it
film
again
crew
any
and
day.
everything for me. So
Yeah,
so
that
we
was
had a great
great.
time. So
Yeah.
thanks so much. We'll be sure to have everybody go follow Jane, and we'll have all her links and everything in the podcast notes. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so glad that you were here to join us this week, and I hope you found value in what we're sharing here. I want to remind you that our website has all of the show notes. You can find it at wendybatten.com/podcast. Everything that you need to hear about today's podcast is there. Also an opportunity if you need to reach out to me. If I can support you in any way whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. So thanks for joining us. Please leave a review, subscribe if you can, and never miss an episode. We hope to see you back here again next week. Thanks, my friend. Have a great week.